Hillary Clinton started her campaign, as you might remember, with a low-key announcement online 2 months ago. Today, she went big with a traditional campaign rally in New York, where she highlighted her roots and positioned herself as an advocate for those left behind after the recession. Joining us now, host of Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz. So, Howie, she talked a lot about Bill Clinton, invoked his legacy and the fond memories so many have about it. Why not have him speak?
Hillary Clinton gave a long policy speech, almost like one of her husband's State of the Union addresses, hitting all the points, the liberal agenda. She talked about income inequality. She attacked Wall Street. There were shout-outs to women and to gays. And she even got down to the wonky level of talking about sick leave and pre-K. And so it was a less personal speech that we had come to expect. Talked a little bit about her mother and how she's going to be a champion, hitting a rhetorical point only toward the end when she said that she was not the youngest candidate in the race, Leland, but that she would be the youngest woman candidate in the race.
And that was certainly one of the big applause lines. As we look behind you, we can see obviously everyone's left. Give us a sense of how big the crowd was. Was this as big as the organizers had hoped? Was this the kickoff they wanted, or a little less than expected?
It was a smaller crowd than I expected. I would say less than 2,000, but that's not necessarily because people didn't show up. It's a very small venue here on New York City's Roosevelt Island. I don't think more people could have fit, but I'm sure it looked very big on TV, which was the idea. And of course, they made plenty of noise, especially when Bill Clinton and Chelsea Clinton joined her and the music turned up after she was done with the speech.
Howard Kurtz live in New York. We also know there was an overflow area that evidently there wasn't anybody in as well. We'll watch for you on Media Buzz tomorrow with a lot more analysis of the speech and the coverage. Thanks, Howie. Elizabeth?
Thank you, Leland. Here now for a fair and balanced debate, radio show host Richard Fowler and GoPac chair David Avella. Both of you, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
All right, I want to start with you, Richard. I want to get your reaction. It was about a 45-minute speech, focused a lot on domestic issues. In fact, I only heard her mention ISIS once. But were you pleased with the speech? What's your reaction?
No, of course. I think it was a great speech by the secretary. I think Hillary did a really good job of sort of laying out what her campaign is going to be over the next couple months. And I think here's the thing, and I think all the candidates, and we saw this earlier in the show when Carly Fiorina was talking about it, they're going to have to figure out how they can talk about poverty, income inequality, and how they're going to solve it. And so Hillary Clinton laid out what seems to be a very, very robust agenda to do so, and hoping the Republican candidates will follow suit.
You didn't feel overwhelmed? She mentioned a lot of issues in that speech. I could barely keep track. That was a lot for 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, she has to. I mean, this is her first major campaign address, number one. And number two, beyond it being her first campaign address, this is the first time that the American people are really getting a chance to hear what her agenda is. So 45 minutes, not that bad.
Okay, David, I want to get your reaction. And speaking of one of the first times we haven't heard from her, she launched her campaign 2 months ago.
There's a reason why Democrats rejected her in the primary in 2008. That while Hillary Clinton can read a good progressive message from a piece of paper, she doesn't have a track record that suggests she's always going to be there for them.
Was this more progressive than you expected?
Well, she can talk about income inequality, but the fact is when she was a U.S. Senator, she paid female employees less than she paid male employees. She can talk about attacking Wall Street, but as a U.S. Senator, she was consistently where Wall Street needed her to be on votes. She can talk about having a robust foreign policy, but yet she oversaw this disaster that has been the Obama administration's foreign policy. So she can, again, read a good speech from a piece of paper, but she has a hit-and-miss record.
Do we think that she's going to be going, and I want to go to you, Richard, do you think she's going to be going more progressive? Because we did hear her talk about fairness. We talked to her about income inequality, like you said, reaching out to the LGBT community. Is she trying to get that vote, that Elizabeth Warren vote?
Well, I think she's going to try to talk to the entire base, right? And I think if you look at recent poll numbers, it indicates to us that she's doing really well amongst the base. Her popularity amongst the base is growing and growing tremendously. Where I disagree with David is you know, this is going to be the rhetoric you hear from all, 10, I think it's 15, by next week will be 30 Republican candidates are going to give you the same sort of Hillary's wrong, Hillary's wrong, Hillary's wrong. But none of them, including him, is talking about what they're going to do and what's going to work for the country. And I think that's going to be the big difference.
Richard's not listening, and we're having a good debate on our side about how we're going to have taxes. And right. I mean, the field is so diverse that even Richard could find a Republican he'd want to support in our field.
We haven't heard one main, you haven't heard one main ideal coming out of this party. You heard a lot of different things. They're squabbling amongst each other. We saw at, Mitt Romney's ranch this weekend. They're spending more time attacking each other than talking about what the American people need to talk about, which is how do we make sure ends meet for working families.
Do you agree with that, David? David? Do you think that they're squabbling right now?
Oh, look, they're going to have their differences. I mean, but that's what's healthy. We have on our side a good discussion that's going on. You have governors that have very strong records of creating jobs. You know, if you look at where job creation has happened in this country the last couple of years, it's been in states led by Republicans. Governors like Rick Perry, governors like Scott Walker. Governor Bush's record was quite impressive in job creation. So if you actually want to talk about who's had strong economic policies, look at any of the 10 running for president on the Republican side versus Hillary, who, again, paid female employees less than she paid male employees, and then has the nerve to get on and give a speech about income inequality.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, clearly he's on his talking points this morning, but beyond that point, I think if you look at, let's talk about Jeb Bush.
Richard, they're not talking points, they're facts.
Let's look at Jeb's Bush's
Who,
record.
by the way, is anticipated to announce.
He's going to announce on Monday. In America, he was the one who got us 1, Common Core, and 2, he got us hyper testing in our public schools. So if that's a candidate you want to go to, that's perfectly fine with me. Or we could talk about Scott Walker's record, which he spent more time demonizing and destroying labor unions and working families instead of growing jobs in the state of Wisconsin. If you look at the border state of Minnesota, where you've seen tremendous job growth, that's because Democrats understand to grow the economy, what it requires is lifting up and rising all the boats, leveling the playing field, investing in public education, investing in infrastructure. Republicans don't have a track record on this, and they're going to have to find one very quickly in this election.
All right, David, I'm going to give you
Hillary has her attack dog, and that's Richard Fowler. He has got his talking points down on how to attack Republicans.
Gentlemen, I hope for more talking points in the future. David Avella, Richard Fowler.